Welcome, my 84 subscribers, everyone on Wrestling Reddit, and everyone who wastes their weekends doing academic papers. Welcome to my review of Ring of Honor, Death Before Dishonor, 2022. So yeah, I just bought my first Ring of Honor event. I was expecting a lower price, but it turned out to be a really good show. And it starts with Jonathan Gresham versus Claudio Castagnoli. The Ring of Honor World Heavyweight Championship is going up first. And I do not agree with this move. I think this should have been the main event or second to the main event. Just because the world title is being fought for. So yeah, Claudio Castagnoli and Jonathan Gresham both make it to the ring. They shake hands. I didn't expect that this will happen. I thought Gresham was going to be more heelish. He didn't enter with his cool gear, so I really thought he was going to be a fucking heel. So yeah, Claudio just towers over Gresham by a lot. It's like Gresham was just 66% of Claudio's height. It's not really the case, but the height difference here is just incredible. Okay, so in the early parts of the match, unfortunately the stream breaks, and then I had to watch this again a couple of hours after because I had to do a paper. I wouldn't be able to watch it live, and I think it helps with the review if I watch it after the fact. So I can take screenshots, I can pause and stuff, and it won't be a problem. So for the match itself, it's very, very technical. On the side of Jonathan Gresham especially. He uses his technical wrestling skills. He does very, very Zack Sabre Jr.-y looking things. And then he works on Claudio's leg for the whole match because Claudio's bigger and you can't really go around and lifting Claudio all over the place because that's what Claudio does. He uses his power to just destroy the shit out of Jonathan Gresham's back because he throws Jonathan Gresham all over the place, makes him land on his back a lot. And I love how Jonathan Gresham just keeps going for Claudio's leg. He doesn't even try anything else until Claudio's in a vulnerable position. Jonathan Gresham goes for strikes when Claudio is on his knees. He went for a running elbow while Claudio was in kneeling position so he can't absorb the hit and actually be damaged with it. Because when he goes for the strikes while they're both standing, Claudio just overpowers Gresham with European uppercuts. And so yeah, basically I like how they always followed the conditions set in the match. The size difference, the selling to everything was always consistent. And yeah, to me, this is what I expected when I read Ring of Honor's rules. Even the snobbiest pure wrestling fans out there would approve of this match and the effort that Claudio put in. Even if he's not really or was never really the technical wrestler. He's more of a power guy. And then for the finish, I really don't like the Ricola Bomb. He does this after he does the Blackpool Combat Club elbows, and then he wins the match. The new Ring of Honor champion is Claudio Castagnoli. His first world championship ever. Or world championship that actually matters. So yeah, let's get to the spots of the match. So number 3 is this ankle lock by Jonathan Gresham. He goes for the moonsault and then immediately goes for the ankle as Claudio's legs are up. This is simple compared to other spots in the match that I've talked about, but I just like the rationale around it. Not giving Claudio any room to breathe. And so for number 2 spot in the match, it's another Gresham spot where he does a German suplex. It's a bridging German suplex on the taller guy. And this got a pretty good crowd reaction. It looked pretty good. Again, simple, but the size difference is what makes this. And for the number 1 spot in the match, it's where Claudio does a gut wrench suplex while standing on the second rope to Jonathan Gresham, who's on the apron. It starts first as a submission, but then it turns into a gut wrench suplex. It looks really fucking good. And nobody else does this but Claudio. So yeah, this match was a really good opener, although it shouldn't have been. It should have been at least second to the last. It should have been a penultimate match. Because FTR Briscoe's is no doubt main event quality whenever and wherever the hell it takes place, but this one should not have been opening match. So yeah, it's Claudio's first championship. I feel like Gresham should have won this one, by crook because he has Tully Blanchard and like his whole faction right there. Should have been like a struggle for Claudio to get the belt. But I guess Tony Khan just wants the title on a more recognizable name to build Ring of Honor around. And I think Claudio is going to do a good job. But I still think it should have been a struggle for him to get a championship. Because now he's achieved it. And the story just like gets cut very, very early on. I think like the story of the new Ring of Honor should have been like about Claudio getting a championship. But now he already has one. There's no more struggle there, and they just threw like a very good opportunity for like a good storyline. But well, that's done. Let's just see what he's gonna do with the championship after. And that belt, by the way, looks like the most basic shit ever. I hope they bring the other one back because it just looks exactly like the pure title. Like when him and Wheeler are right beside each other, it's like they're holding the same belt. It's like they're holding tag team championships. So yeah, that's my problem with the belt. And so Claudio celebrates, and then he shakes hands with the former champion, Jonathan Gresham. So I guess Gresham isn't heel anymore, I don't know. I hope he doesn't get taken off TV or like get buried or something. So after this, we get a backstage interview with Daniel Garcia and Lexi, I think. And what Daniel Garcia's like idea here, what he's saying is that because he's a sports entertainer, if he wins the ROH Pure Championship, he's going to take it to Dynamite and then he's going to destroy it. This makes all the sense in the world because that title is like the antithesis to like sports entertainment. So why not have a group of like sports entertainers destroy it? So for me, this raises the stakes even more because now Wheeler Yuta has to defend the honor of Ring of Honor. It's even in the fucking name. Yeah, really good promo here by Daniel Garcia. Still doesn't suit the JAS. I don't think he's comedic enough to be like sports entertainer quality. But yeah, still pretty good. And then after this is the ROH 6-man tag team championship match between The Righteous and Dalton Castle and the boys. So Dalton Castle, amazing gimmick, still works. I think it'll never get old, and turning him heel or face is very, very easy. It just depends on how he treats the boys. And as for the fucking Righteous, they look so fucking trashy. They look like they own an oiling company in the South and they're gonna buy up your land. And fuck, I love their look. I love the gimmick. There's not enough like exaggerated Southern characters in wrestling, and this one like doesn't make them look stupid at all. It makes them actually look pretty terrifying. The way these guys in like white suits who are like rednecks, how they're portrayed in like movies, especially that guy from Preacher, it works so well, and I hope we see them in Dynamite proper. So again, they start the match with a handshake, and then Dalton Castle and Vincent, the two leaders of the team, start the match. And then I love how when Dalton Castle was launched outside the ring, or when he just left to like recuperate, the boys went down to fan him, and then the fans on like the ringside fanned him as well. Just the crowd interaction in these American crowds are like something special. Japanese fans just sit on their ass. British fans like make chants. They do a lot of singing. And then American fans interact like this. And I like the dynamic between Dalton Castle and the boys. I like that the boys are just there to like eat damage. They're basically there to get beaten up, as well as being used as tools by Dalton Castle. There's actually this one spot where he just throws them out and then they do an outside dive to one of the Righteous. Actually, to all of the Righteous. They do dives in like rapid succession, and it's like one of the spots of the match. And as for the Righteous, I wasn't really impressed with Bateman, but he's the guy who took the pin. He's the guy who gets beaten up. So it's kind of understandable. But with Vincent and Dutch, I think that's his name, they were really impressive. Bateman is more of a high flyer, and then Dutch is the power guy who also does outside dives. He actually does another spot in the match, but yeah, I'm gonna talk about that later. So yeah, again, the Righteous are decent in the ring, but I think They need some more character building as well as like actual TV storylines. And they have this manager lady who like wears a crown of flowers and like is like another exaggerated southern stereotype. Her name is Vida, and then she also like contributes to the match, or at least she tries to. So yeah, the finish is Dalton Castle takes out both Dutch and Vincent. Like, he does big moves on them, he throws them out, and then when it's Bateman's turn, he gets him for the bangarang for the win. And yeah, this is a cool looking finisher, and nothing beats just dropping your opponent on his face. So yeah, for the spots of the match, number 3 is when Dalton just throws the boys at the Righteous outside. They do this in rapid succession, the boys come back in, get thrown out, and then rinse and repeat. And this is a really good, like, special thing that only this team can do. And for the number 2 spot, it's where Dalton broke the pin while one of the Righteous was pinning one of the boys. And the way he does it is that he pushes the referee towards the pinfall. And then as the referee is about to get pissed, about to DQ him, he then fakes a knee injury and then says that he tripped. Such a great, believable thing that Dalton Castle would do. And then for the number 1 spot, it's when Vida does a dive. She does like a moonsault to the boys, but the boys push Vincent and Bateman towards the moonsault, and then they get taken out. But as the boys are like gloating over them, Dutch from inside the ring does an outside dive and then takes out the boys. This is the best spot of the match, and they even did it while the referee was distracted. So yeah, that's the number 1 spot, and this match was really, really good. It's TV undercard or pay-per-view undercard sort of match. I like the Righteous, I like their gimmick, and I love the dynamic between Dalton Castle's faction, his boys, and how they're used in the match. So yeah, really good, but I'm not expecting this to beat anything else in the card. So after this is the ROH Pure Championship match between Wheeler Yuta and Daniel Garcia. And this one lived up to the match type. I'm not saying I like 100% enjoyed this. I think it puts an unnecessary limiter on any 2 wrestlers. I sort of don't like matches that forbid you to use the moves. That's kind of dumb. And I think this sort of match only like 100% works on those who are very, very, like, quote-unquote technically gifted. And good thing one of them is right here. So Wheeler Yuta is that kind of wrestler. He's sort of like Chris Benoit, Kurt Angle, Zack Sabre Jr., Jonathan Gresham, those types of guys. And he can really go for that style. But I think it would be cooler if he would wrestle like a normal match, singles. But the match that these two wrestled here was pretty damn good. For me, it's better than the last one, but nowhere near the opener. Because holy shit, for like the first 10 minutes, they went for like a very, very grounded type of match. And all of the like spots of the match happened after 10 minutes. I actually think it's pretty dirty for an ROH Pure title match because Garcia goes for a lot of bites, he goes for ears, he uses the barricades. He basically wrestled like a member of the Blackpool Combat Club, but not very like technical. And as for Wheeler, he stuck to the rules the whole time. And also he's a really good wrestler. He is like a budding technical genius, but not completely there yet. I like that late in the match, they have this sort of moment where they use their mentors. They use the other guy's mentor's move against them. They're like finishers. So like Wheeler uses a Walls of Jericho, and then before this, Daniel Garcia uses the Regal Stretch to Wheeler in order to like play mind games with each other. This might be the number 1 spot of the match for me, but there are some others, just not as like extravagant as spots of the match usually are. So yeah, let's head to the spots of the match. So number 3 is the Daisuke Sasaki-esque crossface after a shoulder up by Wheeler Yuta. So after Daniel Garcia shoulders up, Wheeler Yuta automatically gets him in a crossface, And I just love this. I love that in America, someone else is doing what Daisuke Sasaki is doing perfectly in DDT. For me, it's like his best thing. I mean, even Chris Benoit didn't transition to a crossface after a pin. So yeah, and then the number 2 spot is where these two go for a slap fight, and then Wheeler ends up knocking Daniel Garcia down. So he then calls for a knockout, ref begins to count, but then Garcia gets up by using the ropes, and then Wheeler German suplexes him. Great spot right here. Again, I like when wrestlers don't give each other time to breathe. He goes immediately for the move here and then goes for a pin. Not only is it great match strategy, but it looks pretty good. And for the top spot of the match, it's the series of submissions that these two do, leading up to them using their mentor submissions. It doesn't really end the match for either of these guys, but it's a nice sort of mind games in kayfabe, and it really gets reactions if you do these famous people's moves to casual audiences. But I don't think there was anyone casual in this crowd. This is Ring of Honor we're talking about. The crowd reacted pretty well as the commentators sold it very well also. So yeah, so the finish is Wheeler gets Daniel Garcia in the seatbelt pin and then gets the win. He used a best friends move in order to win as a member of the Blackpool Combat Club. And after the match, I love how Daniel Garcia goes against the rules and then doesn't shake Wheeler Yuta's hand. I heard that in the History of Ring of Honor YouTube video by, I think, Cultaholic or What Culture. I forgot. Somebody did it. Maybe it was Wrestle Talk or something. I forgot. I'm just gonna post the link somewhere. That this is a great way to build up storylines. And this definitely doesn't end the storyline right here between the BCC and the JAS. I think Daniel Garcia is eventually gonna get that title off of Wheeler. It's sort of a lower card belt. It's just higher than the FTW Championship a little bit just because of the match quality. But yeah, I don't know where or how fans see this title being. So BCC have 2 world championships and the pure title. Are they just gonna collect all the belts? Let's find out later in the show. Foreshadowing. So after this is the brother versus brother match between Dragon Lee and Roosh. That wasn't built up at all. It was just announced on Dynamite. Dragon Lee didn't even show up, and I guess that's my biggest criticism of this entire show. There just wasn't any build up to most of the matches in this card. And I think ROH really needs its own TV slot right now. But when I saw this match was announced, I was pretty excited because it's fucking Dragon Lee and Roosh. I guess if you're an old fan who knew that these guys were brothers, that would be enough build-up. But for me, I didn't. So I just thought that these two were great workers, and that's why I'm gonna watch it. And these two didn't disappoint. From the start of the match, it already felt like a brother versus brother because there was some one-upsmanship. Roosh is the power guy, Dragon Lee is the high flyer, but they both work really, really fast. And Roosh's taunts, as well as his heelish moves towards his brother, are just funny sometimes. When he does the Destino pose on the floor while pinning Dragon Lee, or when he pretends to do a running attack at someone seated on the corner and then he just kicks him in the face. It's all really entertaining to watch. So again, the match starts slow. It's one-upsmanship, but it then becomes a show stealer that's pretty fast-paced all throughout. And because it's fast-paced, there are 2 notable botches. One can be passed off as just a counter. It looks pretty effective as a legit move. But the other one, I don't know if this is a botch anyway, but it's one of the biggest moves of the match. It's a Hurricane Rana from the apron to the outside. It's to answer back one of the spots of the match, but Hurricane Rana doesn't look as good because Dragon Lee sort of loses Roosh midway, and then Roosh does the flip. So yeah, this was a wasted opportunity, and it could have been one of the spots of the match. So yeah, and the ending was a nice reference to the people who are getting knocked out legit during matches, like Adam Cole, Tetsuya Endo, and stuff. And Roosh pretended he was knocked out legit, which made Dragon Lee stop his attack and then go for a pin But Roosh was fucking ready. He wasn't knocked out, and then he managed to take advantage of the situation and then win the match. So yeah, let's move on to the spots of the match. So the one honorable mention is the belly to belly to the corner. This looked nice, impactful, and devastating, but there's just another belly to belly spot that obviously goes over this. And so for number 3, the number 3 spot of the match, it's the outside dive. It's like the between the ropes dive to Roosh, who is on like a table on the outside, and then the table breaks. It looks really cool. And then the number 2 spot of the match is the ending, where Roosh pretends to be knocked out and then takes advantage and then hits his drop kick to a seated Dragon Lee on the turnbuckle. And yeah, I kind of don't like this finisher. It's not devastating enough for Roosh, so I hope he changes it. Or does an ultimate finisher instead. Yeah, I still like the pretending to be knocked out spot. It's really relevant. And then for the number 1 spot of the match, it's the belly to belly to Dragon Lee after a strike battle. And when Dragon Lee tries to do a running knee on Roosh on the apron, they're both on the apron, they just had a strike battle. And then when Dragon Lee tries to do a running attack, Roosh just belly to bellies him to the outside. And fuck, it was a really good spot. It is spot of the night so far. So yeah, this is match of the night so far. It's TV main event, pay-per-view main event quality. And for me, this should have been right before the world title match at third to the last. So yeah, looking forward to see more of Roosh in AEW proper. Hopefully he has a lot better matches than what he's been having, because this is his best match post being signed to AEW so far. Okay, so after this is the match for the ROH Women's Championship between Mercedes Martinez and Serena Deeb. And for this one, they pace it like a main event, and it doesn't end up being Nakamura versus Styles, where they just lie on the floor for majority of the match. It actually becomes pretty intense. They target some limbs and some body parts, but for me, it doesn't really play up to the end. There's no obsessive selling like Kaito Kiyomiya or Hangman Page. But even without this, the match is pretty effective. They do some pretty devastating stuff. They don't go for a show stealer. It's really paced like a main event. It's pretty slow all throughout. But when they're inactive and not doing any fighting, it is pretty intense. They sell the damage. And when something is happening, it's always very hard-hitting move or a really good submission move. A really good-looking submission move like the Deeb talks. And yeah, Serena Deeb took a bump to her head. She landed on her head after the top 1 spot of the match. And I don't see a lot of women's wrestlers doing this or taking these kinds of bumps. So that definitely elevates this over the previous match. So making this my match of the night so far. But the striking though, the striking was pretty shit. It might bring it down to the same level as the previous one again. Because those hammer fists by Mercedes Martinez just look fucking terrible. They're not that convincing looking, and just the striking wasn't very good in this match. So yeah, and then the ending, it's just pretty short and simple. Opponent's lying down, you do your finisher on her, and then she taps out. So that's how the match ends. Mercedes does the Dragon Sleeper, sort of surfboard type of move that Bryan Danielson does. It's not really a top spot of the match, it's more an honorable mention, but yeah, the spots of the match are just too fucking crazy that they overshadow the ending, but the ending itself was really, really good. It's just really simple. There's no problem with that. So yeah, for the spots of the match, I have one honorable mention. So it's the one where Mercedes does her Dragon Sleeper on Deeb, and then Deeb just bites Mercedes' arm, forces her to let go of the hold. Again, this is a nice, intense, greedy counter by Serena Deeb. It really adds to the match. So number 3 spot of the match is the Deeb Talks. It's just a really good looking submission move. It doesn't look like anyone should be escaping from it, but Mercedes is larger than Deeb, so maybe that's it. But yeah, awesome looking move, all the same. For the number 2 spot of the match, it's the spear on the apron. So Serena Deeb does a spear on the apron, then she falls to the floor while Mercedes lands on the apron, which is the hardest part of the ring. But this move took a lot from the 2 women. And again, it just looks freaking cool. I don't see anyone else do this, especially in the women's division of any other company. Or AEW itself. And for the number 1 spot of the match, it's the Avalanche German Suplex by Mercedes Martinez to Serena Deeb, where Serena Deeb just lands on her head. And then Martinez is like stuck in a tree of woe position, so she's unable to go for the pin. So talk about something that isn't being done anywhere else or by anyone else in the same company. This is one of those moves. It feels like Konosuke Takeshita's avalanche lariat, but this one the person is landing on their head. So yeah, this might just beat out that one. Yeah, fucking amazing spot, and this is spot of the night so far. It's right up there with that belly to belly by Rouge. So yeah, all in all, this match was really fucking good. This shot all the way to the top after I watched it. And I'm pretty happy that Mercedes Martinez, someone who doesn't show up on AEW TV, won the match. Because they've been taking the belts away from the ROH regulars, and they shouldn't be doing that shit. At least Jonathan Gresham should have retained, or the Righteous. Or like Wheeler Yuta shouldn't be like a pure champion. Because I think there are a lot of others in the ROH like proper roster that could carry that belt. Like for me, Wheeler Yuta should be like a tag team champion first before he goes for like individual belts. So yeah, great match, great booking. Glad that Mercedes Martinez is still the champion. And I think she should be like AEW champion at least once. So after the match, Mercedes and Deeb shake hands and then they hug it out. I guess they're going to be a tag team again. Really good stuff. So after this, we get a pre-match video package for the Samoa Joe versus Jay Lethal match for the ROH World Television Championship. You know what? I had to do 3 takes of that because I kept saying World Championship. Because fuck, the build here feels like one, and now I understand why the actual Heavyweight Championship is opening the show. It's because this match right here has like years worth of history, and it has like the longest build on AEW TV of any match in the show by far. So not only does this have like years worth of fucking history in multiple companies, but it also has like 2 months worth of build on television. So, fuck. If any match should main event the show, it should have been this one. I mean, not all of it has been hits, and the peaks weren't really that high, but it was very consistent. And that pre-match package really explains the whole feud, that it's a student versus teacher match where their ages are pretty close. And these are 2 veterans of the sport. They've had experience wrestling great matches and cutting great promos, so it was no surprise that they killed the shit out of this video package. Okay, so Jay Lethal enters first. He waves off Satnam Singh and Sanjay Dutt. They're all wearing like white suits, but he sends them off. This shows that the match is more personal to Lethal than what was being shown on TV. So he makes his entrance, and then like right before he reaches the ring, Samoa Joe's music hits, and then he makes his entrance, and then they fight all the way around the ring. The match doesn't even fucking start for 5 minutes. They just fight outside, and then when it reaches the 5-minute mark of the match not starting, Satnam Singh enters for the assist. They use weapons and stuff. And then when Jay Lethal throws Samoa Joe to pick up the scraps, calls for the bell to start the match, but the referee, being smart, this guy's probably the smartest referee right now, he doesn't start the match, and then he orders Satnam Singh to leave before he actually starts it. So for the start of the actual match, they take their damn sweet time. Jay Lethal targets Samoa Joe's left arm, and Samoa Joe dominates in the striking. And I just like to note that Caprice Coleman, the color commentator of Ring of Honor, who's been showing up in AEW, has been unleashed and works very well with Ian Riccaboni. Coleman makes some nice calls, like every time Joe shoulders up his left arm, it's gonna hurt. And like every time Caprice Coleman like yells at Ian Riccaboni, is just like gold. And Joe actually dominates the first half of the match. He's just the bigger dude. And then Jay Lethal regains control. Not really control, but he regains some form of control, and then he goes for something really dumb. He tries to muscle buster Samoa Joe, in where, of course, he fails. But this sets up one of the spots of the match. So this match turned out to be like a very, very American wrestling match. They don't do any crazy bumps. They don't go for any high-flying moves or spots on the apron. They keep the match in the ring, and I don't remember like any match from like AEW or the Japanese promotions that I've watched that like just keep it in the ring and make it this exciting. Because shit, man, these guys know how to tell a story. They had the fans on their feet at one point. They had like all of them reacting. The crowd was so loud for this fucking match, especially at the end. We don't get a "This is awesome" chant, but it doesn't need one. All of the near falls here were more effective than the near falls in all of the previous matches. And I guess that's just what feud building and history do to wrestling matches. So yeah, this might be my best match of the night so far. And I think I'm contented with this going over the World Championship match, because this itself feels like one. So yeah, as for the ending, it's gonna be a top spot of the match, so let's move on to the spots of the match. So number 3 is when Jay Lethal tries to go for the Muscle Buster. He fails, and then Samoa Joe goes for like a diving leg lariat. This is the only high-flying spot that they do, and it's pretty effective. Like I said, this is very, very American, and they keep it really in the ring and grounded. It's like The Rock versus Stone Cold. It's kind of like in that effect. And then for the number 2 spot in the match, this is a bit of cheating, but it's both of the near falls. The one after the lethal injection. Okay, so never mind. Number 2 spot in the match is the near fall after the title shot, or when Sanjay Dutt distracts the ref and then Jay Lethal hits Joe with the TV title. And then when that near fall happened, the crowd just exploded. And then for the number 1 spot of the match, it's the whole ending sequence, because it's just like pretty simple, works very, very much. It got the second loudest pop of the match, and it's just Jay Lethal trying to go for the lethal injection. He gets caught in like a sleeper. He counters with a jawbreaker. He tries to hit Joe with the dragon sleeper, but instead rolls him up. And after a near fall, Joe kicks Jay off of him, and then he does the rear naked choke / coquina clutch and gets the tap out victory. So yeah, these two guys still have it, and I don't know who's gonna beat Samoa Joe for that title. He just feels like world champion to me, more than Claudio and more than Jonathan Gresham. And as for Jay Lethal, the guy needs to win a feud again. Guy needs to show up on AEW and then to just like beat someone. Because this guy's a former Ring of Honor world champion. He's just like 37 years old, and I think he could be a great main eventer for either Ring of Honor or AEW. And with the main eventer still injured, I think it's the perfect time to just slip Jay Lethal in there. Okay, so this is the match of the night so far. It shouldn't be on TV. It's just a pay-per-view main event level of match. So after this, we get match announcements for Fight for the Fallen, for Rampage, and for Dynamite. Rampage happens on the 9th of August, and then Dynamite happens on the 7th. So that's still 2 weeks away. But the matches announced are... First one is ROH versus Jon Moxley. I'm expecting that to main event because Mox always main events Dynamites. And yeah, I expect ROH to lose, but it's going to be a competitive match. We also get Thunder Rosa versus Miyu Yamashita. I've seen Miyu Yamashita perform before in Cyberfight, and she's pretty good. Just pretty uncharismatic. She's like the opposite of Maki Ito, and they're both in the same faction or something. After this, we have Ricky Starks versus Danhausen. I'm expecting Ricky Starks to win, but how cool would it be to have Danhausen carry around his own belt and have the FTW Championship just become like the Danhausen title? And then for the last match on Dynamite, it's going to be Tony Nese and Smart Mark Sterling against Swerve Strickland in a handicap match, and this doesn't make sense at all. Like, this makes zero sense. How the fuck did Mark Sterling arrange this match? It doesn't make sense. Swerve is probably gonna win, and it's gonna further bury Tony Nese. But yeah, hopefully they move on from this feud. Hopefully Tony Nese moves up. But yeah, that's a fat chance that'll happen. And for the last match on Dynamite Fight for the Fallen, it's Bryan Danielson's return match against Daniel Garcia. And I think this is gonna be it. This is where Daniel Garcia will finally be joining the BCC, or that's how I would book it. He's more suited to that faction, and they're both like have Daniel in their name. So if there's like any time to make this happen, it's for this match. And then for Rampage, we get some B-show matches. But Matt Sydal versus Lee Moriarty looks like it's gonna be a good match. But I think they should do better with Rampage. Like, have the bigger stars wrestle there. Have the bigger stars main event. Because Moriarty versus Sydal feels like it should be like number 2. So yeah, let's move on to the main event. So for the main event, it's FTR versus the Briscoes for the ROH Tag Team Championships. And shit, we all knew that this was gonna be match of the night. This one was everyone's match of the night coming into the show. And shit, they don't disappoint at all. So they started off going toe-to-toe with each other. Very grounded. We don't get high-flying spots. I don't think they even went up the turnbuckle at all in like the first half. Or like the first quarter. Because it does go for like 40 plus minutes. We get some nice pose-offs by Mark Briscoe specifically. He does like a redneck kung fu sort of pose. And then we get like a storytelling moment where Dax is backdropped and then he has to roll outside the ring and get checked. But I really like how they adhere, like completely adhere to tag team wrestling rules in this match. I mean, they don't indie it all up because we see that almost all the time. They don't go for a PWG style tag team match. They go for like a Ring of Honor tag team match. So I just gotta say, there is no other tag team in professional wrestling that have a gimmick as real as the fucking Briscoes do. They are second to none in in-ring charisma and their realness. Maybe second place is FTR. But yeah, the Briscoes wrestle according to what they look like and their characters. So just like the Women's Championship, this was paced like a main event. It's slow and builds up to a hard-hitting finish. I'm now talking in TW terms here, so shit. So before the first fall, we get 2 awesome spots. So one is where Cash Wheeler clotheslines the shit out of Mark Briscoe while they're both on the apron. And then the other is what leads to the first fall, and it's when Jay Briscoe like catapults Dax Hardwood to the corner, and then he does like a Shawn Michaels-esque exaggerated spot where Dax Hardwood just hits the post. He like does an extra jump to hit the post. And then the Briscoes go for the Doomsday Device and then the pin. 1-0 Briscoes. And so Dax Hardwood was pinned, and then he stays legal man for like a couple of minutes. We get like an awesome spot where Mark Briscoe, who at one point had the largest palm to tip of middle finger measurement in all of Ring of Honor, does some fucking stiff chops on the outside. That makes Dax's chest freaking bleed. I don't know if this is blood capsules or if it's blading, but it's a nice effect right after those stiff chops. So before the second fall, the story is Dax Hardwood, who just got pinned once, is still the legal man, and then the Briscoes cut the ring in half. Basically, it's just Dax trying to get the tag. And he almost does. He does an avalanche Saito suplex. It's the most aerial move they've done so far. And so him and Jay are both down, and then right when he almost gets the tag, Mark Briscoe pulls Cash Wheeler off of the apron. So they beat Dax some more. Like, they really make him work for the tag. Then the way he gets the tag out is Mark Briscoe misses a clothesline, but then Dax doesn't run the ropes when he ducks under it, and instead falls backwards and then gets the tag. This is like one of the best tags I've ever seen. So Cash Wheeler, after being fresh, after not being tagged in for about like 15 minutes, dominates Mark Briscoe. And then we get this one awesome near fall where Cash hits Mark with a gory special. Haven't seen that move in a long time. Hello, Chavo Guerrero. Then goes for the pin while Dax Hardwood is pulling on Jay Briscoe's leg. And I really thought this was going to be the second fall. This was like the best near fall so far, and it's guaranteed a spot in the match. And then we get another fucking near fall when after Cash hits a crossbody, a flying crossbody, Mark Briscoe kicks out, the referee checks on him. Then when he gets to the ropes opposite the ramp, Jay Briscoe nails him with a ring bell and fucking makes him bleed. And then we get another fucking near fall. Mark Briscoe hits a froggy bow, Jay goes for the pin, and then Dax just pulls Jay off of the ring. And then to set up for the second fall, Mark Briscoe chases Dax Hardwood around the ring, and then he gets flapjacked to the steel steps, taking him out. And then the way FTR get the second fall is that Cash Wheeler does a quick tag. He throws Mark Briscoe to the ropes opposite the ramp. Cash slides under Dax's legs, and then they hit the big rig for the second fall. 1-1 FTR Briscoes. Or like FTR 1, Briscoes 1. I think that's a better way to say it. And then shit, for the third fall, 3 people in the match are bleeding. Dax's chest, Cash's head, and Mark's head. And they just go at each other. And then we get like another possible spot of the match. It's where Mark Briscoe and Dax Hardwood are both on the apron. And then I know Mark Briscoe is the inferior member of the Briscoes. But in this match, he's the best performer. He's MVP. Because in this spot right here, they like have a strike battle while on the apron. And then Mark Briscoe just like redneck hulks up and then uppercuts Dax off of the apron. And then follows it up with a blockbuster. And then we get the first ROH chant of the entire night. And then so Mark tags in Jay. And then we get another fucking storyline moment here. Like a storytelling moment of the match. It's where the Briscoes try to go for another Doomsday device. But then FTR foil it because Cash pushes Mark off of the turnbuckle. And then, like, I think Dax loudly calls for a big rig. But then Jay, not wanting to be pinned again, fucking does all he can to stop it from happening. And then Dax Hardwood just punches the ref. And it's not even close. He clearly chased after the punch and just like intentionally hit Paul Turner, or that's what it looked like. This definitely was a botch, and dude shouldn't have chased for the punch. This was a mistake. So after this, Jay hits the Jay Driller and then gets a 7 count if the referee was conscious. Fuck. And then the Briscoes go for another Doomsday device. And again, they fail, and then they do another repeat spot of Jay Briscoe fighting out of like another Shatter Machine / Big Rig. He fights out of it the first time, and then when he's thrown to the opposite corner, he does like a springboard crossbody, but then gets caught in a Big Rig from midair. What a great out of nowhere Big Rig. And then we get a "This is awesome" chant, and the match goes on. And then FTR go for this like superplex and frog splash combination, but Mark Briscoe breaks it up. Jay Briscoe escapes and then catches Dax in like the electric chair for another Doomsday device. And this time they hit it, but they just get a near fall because Cash Wheeler from the outside headbutts the shit out of Jay Briscoe to break up the pin. Like he slides in the ring and breaks it up. And then fucking Mark Briscoe and Cash Wheeler fight it out while both of their partners are down in the ring. And then we have what I think is a botch. Cash tries to suplex Mark Briscoe out of the ring, but then he bounces off the top ropes and bounces back into the ring, and then they both roll out. This doesn't look as bad because both of these dudes have been wrestling for like 40 minutes already, or like 30 plus. So this one here can be excused. And then fucking Jay Briscoe and Dax Hardwood like punch it out in the ring. And this culminates in like a clothesline, a hard lariat. This was poorly described, but you're just gonna have to watch it yourself. And then after this, we get a spot where both Briscoes have both members of FTR in like camel clutches. And then both members of FTR are preventing each other from tapping out. It's like a hashtag DIY sort of spot. And then shit, after they escape, they reach the ropes. They like manage to escape. Mark goes up the turnbuckle to do like a spiked J Driller. But then Cash Wheeler just backdrops him to the table outside, breaking it, taking them both out of the remainder of the match. And so they both fight, and then the finish happens. The finish was fucking insane. It's number 1 spot of the match and pushes everything down because fucking Dax Hardwood goes for like a second rope pile driver. He goes for a second rope pile driver, like one of the most dangerous fucking spots that took Austin out for like, I think his whole career, basically. It altered Stone Cold's career. It injured a lot of people in the past, making the WWE ban it. But then fucking Dax Hardwood just does one from the second rope. So he does this, and then he just rolls Jay up with his legs and then pins him 1, 2, 3. Jay Briscoe, the superior member of the Briscoe Brothers, was pinned twice in the match. And fuck, this is match of the night. It shouldn't even be on TV. It's a pay-per-view only main event. And I think it's right up there with Keno versus Kojima for match of the month. So yeah, let's get to the spots of the match. Okay, so I already described the spots of the match, so everything I described will be considered honorable mentions, so I'm just gonna mention the top 3. So number 3 is the big rig on Jay Briscoe when he's going for like the springboard crossbody. He gets caught in the air and then gets hit with a big rig for the second fall. Again, this is like shows that the big rig is like a tag team move that can be like an RKO where it can be hit out of nowhere, and this one proves it right here. This might be one of the best big rig shadow machine spots I've ever seen. And then number 2 is the backdrop to the table outside. This was fucking insane. The ref didn't even DQ them because, I mean, it's a backdrop. You can't really see it happening. It's just like an accident. You can argue that it's like an accidental spot, but it looks fucking really cool. The table just shatters and then they get taken out of the match. Both of them. Both Cash and Mark. And then for the number 1 fucking spot of the match, it's the pile driver from the second rope turnbuckle that gets Dax Hardwood the victory for his team for the third fall. So after the match, they try to shake the Briscoes' hand. The Briscoes do so reluctantly and then they leave. Mark Briscoe ain't so happy about the loss. So FTR thanked the fans, tried to close the night, but then Claudio Castagnoli, William Regal, and Wheeler Yuta are on the stage and then they challenge. I mean, it's obviously a challenge. They challenge FTR for the titles. And it's not like they already have belts. They only have like the top belt of the company and like the lowest belt, I think. They want the tag team championships as well. So I fucking don't know how this is gonna play out. I think this is all happening too early, and I think they should face a team like the Motor City Machine Guns first or something to that effect. But yeah, I don't like this challenge right here. It is pretty cool, but it's too early. Claudio just won the World Championship, and Wheeler just should be teaming with someone else like Bryan Danielson from the BCC. And yeah, so FTR is probably gonna win. They're probably gonna pin Wheeler, and they're gonna retain the ROH championships because I really think the Briscoes are gonna be winning those back. So yeah, that's it. They close the night like this. What a great fucking pay-per-view. This like clearly tops Destination 2022. This one has matches that can compete with Kiyomiya versus Muto or like Keno versus Kojima. Destination 2022 was a bit inconsistent with the match quality, but ROH Death Before Dishonor was consistent and on a high level all throughout. So that's why this is gonna be like, I think, the best pay-per-view of the entire month. And also the best match of the entire month, FTR versus Briscoes, number 2. So yeah, these are my match rankings. You should go watch this fucking show. It's so good. And I'm gonna be releasing a review of Dynamite. It's a bit late. It's like super late. I just had to make the fucking paper where I'm the only one who knows how to use Excel, so shit. Yeah, but I'll try to make the Dynamite review as early as I can when I get home. So yeah, amazing pay-per-view, worth the watch. I'm gonna be sent out again after like 8 hours. I'm gonna be working on the review, gonna edit it until like 3 a.m. and then I'm gonna go to sleep and then get ready. But yeah, this was a great show, worth the time, worth making the review, and that's the end of this review. So yeah, like, comment, and subscribe for engagement. Share if you do not know me. Hit that bell notification for future videos, and please, watch my shit.